Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Bidemi Badmos, an academic advisor in charge of Post 315, the theory and practice of administration. As a way of starting the discussion on this particular course, I would like to take you through what we shall be discussing in the course of our class today. The first thing we shall be looking at is the uh, understanding understanding administrations, whether public or private. We need to conceptualize uh, administration. By this, I mean we need to define what is all about administration, be it in private domain or in public domain. From there, we move to the types of administrations. And basically, we have two types of administrations. We have private and public. Private administrations and public. All these we shall discuss along the line. And then we should also talk about, or we will be discussing about, the distinguishing features of public and private administrations. By this, we mean the characteristics. What are the things that differentiate public administration from private administration, vis-a-vis the private administration from public vis-a-vis public administrations. So, part of the key features under which this differentiation can be made are the public domain, to determine the domain of this type of administrations. Are they in the public or in the private? We also look at the ownership types. When you're talking about ownership type, this particular administration, is it being owned by private individual organizations or by the government? Also look about the means of funding. How are these organizations being funded? Lastly, we talk about yardstick for measuring efficiency, because public administration have their own way of measuring efficiency, while private administration also have their own way. And basically, all this shall be discussed by the time we commence the lecture proper. So, back to the definitions or meaning of administration. In a nutshell, if you are to define administration basically involves two key concepts, and that concept are organizing and managing. So these two concepts have to be merged before you can arrive at administration. So we can say administration is the process of organizing and managing both human and material resources to achieve a set goal, to achieve a targeted objectives. And when you are talking about objectives that are set sometimes could be different. For instance, objectives set by the government or public administrations might be different from private administrations. So the essence of administration is to ensure that there is adequate and thorough management and organizing of both human and material resources to achieve this set goal or objectives. For instance, you can talk of the primary objective of public administration as being to meet or to satisfy the greater pleasures of the greater people, to satisfy the common interest of the citizens. While the primary or the basic motive for establishing private sector is profit, to maximize profits, is for profit maximization. So, and administrations in each of these sectors, organization, must strive to achieve that particular goal. In Nigeria, can we say public administrations have actually fulfilled a set goal by managing and organizing both human and material resources? Can we say that? Anyway, the experience is is there for all of us to witness, whether they have actually fulfilled or they have made their set objective or goals. But in the private sectors, actually they don't have a choice. It is a must for them to survive. They have to meet their set goal, which is categorically stated to maximize profit at any cost. And that is why in most of the activity of private organizations or administrations, governments have to intervene in different ways. We shall discuss that one later. So, similarly, you can conceive administration as the art of managing and organizing the affairs of organizations. It's the simple art of managing and organize the affair of an organization. And don't forget, organization could be private or public. In fact, when you are talking about organization, in a narrow sense, even family is an organization of a society, is an organization within a society. So the parent must also master the art of managing and organizing the affairs of that particular organization, the religion body, and so on and so forth. So what I'm saying invariably is that administration does not actually restrict itself to the domain of public administration and private administrations. I'm talking about institutionally. But it could also involve how individual person manage his affair, administer his affairs. So, in another way, it's also a process of implementing political values or process of accomplishing political objectives. You know, we have taken it to another dimension now. When you are talking about political value, what are the political values? It is not what the value in the literary sense of it. It is not what you follow as individual. We are talking about things that are worth dying for. The allocations of scarce resources, the art of determining who gets what, when, and how. So political value are not just mere value. They are the value that determine the existence of a political system, that determine the sources of failures of political system. So in this sense, you have taken the art of administration into a public domain, a public sphere. That is, when you are now talking about administration as a process of implementing political value or a process of accomplishing political objectives. And political objective is not tantamount. It's not the same as individual or private objectives. So, in a sense, there are acronyms or terms that are that have been developed by scholars to actually define administration in any sense. And one of the popular acronyms is POSTCORB. That is POSTCORB. Each of these letters actually define aspects of administration. So the P stands for planning, O stands for organizing, YS stands for staffing. D stands for directing, and CO stands for coordinating, R stands for reporting, and the last B stands for budgeting. So you can join all these together and say administration is the process or art of planning, reporting, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting, and budgeting to achieve a set goal of a particular organization. So, and be it private or public administration or sectors. All these features actually present because you have to plan. The first principle of administration is to plan. If you are to set up a company, even if it's a private company that is geared toward making profit, you need to start by thinking of a location. What kind of business you want to do? How much do you require to flow that business? What are the required personnel? What kind of qualification do you require in that personnel? Who are going to be the targeted audience or customer? All those things needed to be planned for. When you now move away from planning, you talk about organizing. When you have actually planned and identified all those things you needed to float either a private organization or public organizations, then you now organize them. Okay, this one come first, then this one come next, then where will this one stand? Who is going to do this? Who is going to, that's act of organizing. Then staffing. You are at the stage of planning and organizing. You've already identified what you need to proceed with establishing of either private or public organizations. Then you've already have a mental image of how those things are going to be organized. Then you go to recruit. You have to staff according to your planning and organizations. Then you move away from there to start talking about directing. It is not just enough to plan, to organize, and to even staff. You need to give instruction. You need to arrange the hierarchy of order. Who is going to pass instruction to this? Who is going to carry out this? Who is going to execute this? Who is going to punish this person for break? All those things are part of directing. Then you now move away from that to coordinate. The planning, the organizing, the staffing and directing also need to be coordinated. So all of these can work harmoniously to achieve your primary aim of setting that particular organization up. So from there, you talk about reporting. Okay, you have put all these things in place. For you to know whether you are moving along the line as scheduled or as planned, whether you have not actually fall apart or go astray from your set goal, you need report. It's a kind of feedback that will inform your own evaluations of what you are able to put in place. And then from there, you also need to budget. Okay, from the reporting and all that, okay, where the lapses are, what do you require to do the logistic and all that. So those are the process of administrations. So let us talk about the types of administration. Basically, we have two types of administrations. You should be familiar with this even before this class. We have private and public administrations. And when you are talking about private administration, you are talking about the establishment that is organized to without government intervention to achieve a set goal of that particular organization, in most cases to make profit. Because the only thing that keep private establishment or administration or organization in place is its ability to generate profit. Because it's through profit that their recurrent expenditure or that they are going to pay staff and all that is going to be made. So why, on the other hand, public administration, on the other hand, is the totality of the state performance in relation to the political power. You can see a diverse view from what private administration stands for and what public administration stands for. One is primarily established and being managed and organized primarily to achieve a private motive of its originator or organizers, which is basically profit maximization. Most private sectors or administrations are not run on non-profit basis, except maybe they just want to render some social responsibility has been demanded of them by their host community or government. So if they have their way, they won't even do that. And that is what is happening presently. Most corporate or private organization or administration are not even fulfilling their public responsibility. Most of them spend money on things that are not relevant, that are not directly affecting the lives of the masses, like sponsoring the music, the concert, entertainment, and all that, where some don't even have access to watch television. Some don't even, some that have television. Most of all these high level of entertainment are being shown on a multimedia channels. And you know, multimedia channel is not going to be feel for free. So most masses don't even have the opportunity to benefit. Because most of them are on DSTV and some other satellite multimedia, whatever. So some are doing their social responsibility on sports. So the direct need of their host community are not really getting any adequate attentions. Like helping the needy, especially the brilliant indigent student, giving scholarship, except for some few organizations, maybe some few of them, be like Shell and all. So, or perhaps getting people uh, creating access, especially in the rural area, access to the farm, their farmland, electricity, for instance, assisting government to provide electricity in those areas, and maybe water supply. You know, they can make boreholes and stuff like that. Things that can even helping during the to create a proper drainage system could also be of a huge benefit to the society. But let's move away from that. We are talking about public administration, and we say it is totality of the state performance in relation to political power. So when you are talking about public administration, you're actually talking about how that also takes us to the measurement of efficiency, yardstick for measuring the efficiency. So efficiency of public administration will be measured on the totality of uh, state performance in relation to political power. How are they be able to fulfill their social contract agreement with the citizens? How will they be able to alleviate people's suffering? How they be able to cater for their basic needs, terms of social amenity, and so on and so forth. So it is also the process of managing the public affair. You understand? Public administration is also the process of managing the public affair. That is, it is the process of managing public resources for the implementation of government policy. You know, it is a process of managing and organizing public resources to achieve or to fulfill or to meet governmental policy. When you are talking about public resources, what comes to mind? I know some of you will have an idea, but when you're talking about public resources, you are talking about both human and material or natural resources. When you're talking about human resources, you are talking about the 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 population knowledgeability of the populations in terms of skill acquisitions, expertise, and all that. And you're talking about natural or material resources, you are talking about other things that are not actually, it is not, it's naturally gifted by God. Human being have no contribution on his existence, but the contribution human being has is how to manage all those resources. So it is the heart of managing and organizing public resources to achieve government policy or program. So then we now look at public administrations in the real sense. You know, there are two ways of defining or conceptualizing public administrations. One is theoretical definitions, and one is practical definitions. I know some of you do use no. Practically, let us talk about this thing practically. Those one are they are theories that cannot work. So what you are saying is when you are defining something practically, you are talking about in the real sense what is. What is? You know, when you talk about democracy, we define democracy in different ways. Different ways. And that's definition. That is theory. When you now come to the issue of democratization or democratizing, practicing the act of democracy, that's another thing. The fact that Nigeria is running a democratic system of government doesn't mean that Nigeria is a totally democratic state. Because indices and factors that actually determine a democratic state, some of them are lacking in the Nigerian system. So ideally, there is difference between what is and what ought to. What is, that is what is happening, the reality. What ought to be is the ideal, utopian. You know, what we think it should. So, and that what we think it should is theoretical definition. It's theory, and which will take us to theoretical definition of public administration. And what is practical definition of practical. That's it. Practical definition of administration. We are going to discuss that. Let's first look at practical definitions of public administration. Public administration is practical definition. I think we've discussed that. I think practical definition is the process of managing and organizing public resources for the implementation of governmental policy or programs, or to achieve governmental policy or programs. What is happening in different ministry? Let's say Ministry of Health. Let's take Ministry of Health, for instance. It's an aspect of public administration. You wonder, you know, we expect that the Ministry of Health or health sector to function effectively and efficiently to be able to cater for health needs, medical needs of its teeming populace. By that we mean that every sick person should be able to get adequate treatment that could sustain his or her life, except in a critical condition that should people lose birth, lose their life during childbirth. The advanced society in the highly civilized world, they have moved away from high mortality rate, childbirth death, and all that. So it's only on a few occasions that you have a report of human death during childbirth. But in Nigeria, it's still prevailing. So imagine president travel abroad for treatment for illness that have killed millions of Nigerians that don't have the opportunity to travel out for treatment. So what this connotes, what it implies is that if Nigerian health sector or a health sector per se, if it's been adequately managed and organized to fulfill the reason why the government set it up in the first instance, there won't be issue of the president traveling out for treatment. I don't know whether you are getting my illustrations. I don't want to get you confused. But what I'm saying is the Ministry of Health in Nigeria the way it's being run presently, the way they are running presently, is an example of practical definitions of administration. Why the way it ought to be run, efficient management and organizing of health sector, falls in the other category, that is theoretical aspect, what ought to be. So let's look at theoretical definition of public administration. Theoretical definition of public administration can be described as a body of knowledge or discipline of study that involve itself with political inquiry. You know, the theoretical aspect talk about public administration as a body of knowledge or discipline of studies, like what we have in university or what we are doing presently. We are teaching the heart of administration, what ought to be. We are not actually practicalizing it. We are only discussing the idea, what should be the ideal public administration. We are talking about when it is not being managed adequately and efficiently, what will be the consequence? Those are the things we are talking about. But when you meet a core administrator, he will tell you the reason why no amount of money being injected in health sector in Nigeria can actually make any meaning, any transformation in terms of meeting the need of the Nigerian people in terms of their medical needs, meeting their medical needs. We'll tell you so many reasons why this cannot work, why no matter the equipment they bring. Maybe that has to do with our socializations, with attitude to financial wealth, personal aggrandizement, wealth accumulations. Our mindset, we need to be changed. So let's quickly move away from there and talk about the distinguishing factor of public and private administrations. What are the things that actually differentiate public sector and public administration from private administration? The first we talk about is public domain. And what comes to mind is, fine, both private and public sector are actually designed to meet certain aspects of societal needs. But what differentiates, or to meet certain aspects of public needs, let me put it that way. But what actually differentiates these two administrations is the primary aim of setting up public administration is to promote the common interest, to satisfy the greatest need of the greatest number of people. Why the primary aim or motive of setting up a private sector is to maximize profit, irrespective of the quality of services that you are getting, irrespective of how you feel, does not really matter. If they can find their way around of still making profit, and that is the reason why Nigerian telecommunication system will continue to subchange his steaming customers, whereby you have never applied for any caller tone, you are being charged on weekly basis. So many services unsolicited for that people are being charged, and you cannot do anything. You are helpless. The government are not doing anything about it. All they are doing is specification. Talk. And at the end of the day, the masses are there are still at the receiving end. So that's on public domain. We talk about ownership. I think from the word public and private, what comes to mind is, what is private belong to individuals. It could be individual set of people or group of people, and it could be organizations that are categorized as as private. And what belongs to public, when you are talking about ownership, the ownership of public administration or public organization, everybody, it is assumed in ideal setting. That also takes us to the practicals and the theory. You know, the notions of the ownership of public administration is that every citizen of that particular country owns that public entity or organization. In the real sense, in the practical sense of it, we know that that's not true. That's not true. If you own something, you should have a say in how it's being managed. Do we have a say in how electricity or let's just say health sectors or educational system or whatever is being managed? Definitely the answer is no. So, but without deviating, what we are saying is that public administrations belong to the government and its people because it's being funded through the tax, through the public tax. God has a primary source of funding public administration. Every other thing, every other source of fund is secondary. Of course, we know that in Nigeria, not many of us pay tax, except for some few of us that are unfortunate that even before you are giving your salary, the government must have removed what belongs to them. But if we are being given our salary that we are not expected to go and pay our tax as also of it, definitely most people will find a way of dodging the payment of tax. That is the fact. Anyway, let's move on. Another distinguishing factors or feature is funding. The public administration gets its fund from public tax, royalties, royalty, and the sales made from natural resources, in foreign interventions. Sometimes the international donor do assist some public administration like health sector and so on and so forth in some area. Sometimes they got their funding through loan like the one the government has just secured to finance the 2017 budget. I think was it 30 or 30 something percent of the budget being financed through loan. So that's part of it. Then why the private administration get their fund through sales of stocks, stock exchange. They sell the stocks through bond, collect bond, sometimes through government interventions. Government do intervene in some critical private sector that have a direct impact on the life of majority of its citizens. And through loans, private organizations are also entity that is statutory legalized to seek loan either within or outside the country. So let's also look at the reason why governments intervene in private administration or private organizations, why they intervene in their activity, in their affairs. The first reason why government has to intervene is to ensure protective, for protective reason, that's the protective interventions. Because this day that the global economy is largely is favoring privatization and liberalization policy. It means some key sectors that have previously belonged or solely belonged to government, public administration, have to be privatized for efficiency and accountability. And out of privatization means those things will be sold to private individual organizations for proper management and also for source of revenue to the government. And in this sense, those services that are critical, particularly services like electricity, NEPA as we used to know it, has been sold. You don't even know the kind of name they are bearing now because they have different name, BDR, this one. So, but government still has a way of ensuring that its people have not been, or citizens have not been exploited or subchanged. You understand? And they did that. They are doing that through establishment of different agencies to see to their affairs. Understand? So he also talk about promotional intervention. For promotional reason, government do intervene in the private sector's affair. To encourage homegrown products as a way of discouraging importations. Government in recent time have come up with different initiatives, different idea to encourage small-scale enterprises through different program, SWAPI, UWIN, sort of different things. Those things are geared toward, for instance, helping farmer with tractors, supplying of fertilizer, and even soft loan without interest to farmer. All those things are way because farmers, majority of them are not farming for government. They are private farmer, but they are also getting all those encouragement from government as a way of promotion to promote all those key sectors and to encourage the growth of local industries. Even vulnerable people like women and children are also being given that kind of promotional support. Similarly, we have proprietary intervention. What do I mean by this? Government do intervene in the private sector, particularly those that are considered to be critical to the existence of the state and critical to the basic need of the citizens. So they try this by ensuring that is either those things that are those private organizations that are being privatized are not 100% privatized. Government might ensure that they have a certain percentage in that investment so as to ensure that they also have a say in how those things is being managed, particularly in telecommunication industry, electricity, and all that. And that is why they also set up regulatory agency to also see to the affairs of all those organizations. The last reason why government need to intervene is for regulatory purpose. That's called regulatory intervention. Who can give me an example of regulatory agency in Nigeria? Anyway, without wasting much of our time, I know some of you must have heard of SON, SON. Simply means Standard Organization of Nigeria. What did they do? They ensure that the products being manufactured and being imported to Nigeria actually meet a specified standard. It's a way of ensuring that people get the best value for their money. And Nigerian is not just they don't just turn Nigerian into dumping ground, either by local producer or foreign manufacturer. So that's the same thing with NAFDAC. NAFDAC were basically in the area of consumption and drugs and all that to ensure that the consumable products being manufactured in Nigeria are thoroughly screened to see that it meets the medical standard or health standard or the specified standard or global standard in that respect, and even drugs. So those are the same thing with NELD, Nigerian Electricity Regulation Commission or Agency. I don't know. Also see to the charges being made by all these electricity companies. They regulate their affair. Similarly, NCC, Nigeria Communication Commissions. Even though all these agencies we are talking about, most of them are not living up to expectations. You know what happened with a man that sued is it Fanta or Sprite, I don't know, or Mirinda. Most of you that are conversant with social media, you must have read something of that. And the man sued them that when he imported those things, those products to UK, those things were impounded and he lost millions of naira in the form of investment. He now came back to sue the company and they said those things are not actually produced for foreign consumption. It means that they have actually turned Nigerian into dumping ground where life is meaningless. So then he sued that company and NAFDAC because NAFDAC certify those products. So what this actually implies that NAFDAC is not living up to its expectation in the recent time. It's just a way of how corruption is infiltrating into virtually all sectors in Nigeria. So the same thing we talk about NCC, Nigeria Communication Commission. They are supposed to see to all these nonsense charges, unsolicited, different kind of anomalies that the telecommunication company they are perpetrating. Injustice, broad daylight robbery, 419 they are perpetrating, and NCC is not doing anything. They are just there to collect bribe, probably to, I don't know, but then we leave that for now. So I think we have to stop here. By God's grace, when we meet in our next class, it shall be more fruitful. It shall continue from where we stop. All the best and have a good day. Thank you.